The manager of the Toronto Blue Jays now joins us, John Gibbons. Good morning, Mr. Gibbons.
Hey, B, good morning. I'm just waking up, and I'm a little under the weather, so I sound a little off.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll get you through it. We'll get you through it. We don't have Barker here, so we'll be able to understand you. It'll work. Don't worry.
Perfect.
Let me ask you this. Does Anthony Gose get that bunt down last year?
Well, you hope so, but you never know for sure. You know, Jeff, I think that's three of them. He's put in that right perfect spot since he's been here this year, and they've all turned out just right. You know, yeah, he went down at the end of the season, went down to Instruction League in Florida there for a couple of weeks just for that sole purpose, and it's paying off for him.
Gib, how about the aggressiveness of Louis waving Pilar home right there? I made a comment that you do things like that when you're playing well and things are going well. And he was aggressive with. That's a close play at home plate. When you think, I know if he's thrown out there, there's a lot of criticism saying, why'd you wave him home? You could have had. But my thinking is, if he's out at home plate, you also have a runner on third right now with one out.
Yeah, oh yeah. You know, that's where that's why being a third base coach is so tough. But you know, you get caught up in the moment and the excitement. And Louis done a tremendous job over there. I mean, he's been money all year.
Yes, he has.
But yeah, with Gose, the trail runner. You know, if the guy's out at home plate, he'll be standing on third base. He might even be halfway to home by then. So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those plays, those freak plays that happen, and you know, that's you know, when you got a little speed on the bases, and Pilar doesn't run like Gose, but he's a good runner. I mean, you can make some things happen sometimes.
And do you think that part of that though too for Louis? I'm going to talk to him today about it. But when a team's playing well, when everything's going right, everybody's got some swag working. You just tend to be more aggressive and put pressure on the defense.
Yeah, and you know things tend to work out in your favor too. You know, I mean we're as hot as you can be right now, and I mean we're getting all the breaks. Things are falling our way. I mean that's just the way things work. You know when you're going good. So you know it was it turned out to be our first walk-off win last night. You know surprisingly we're in June or just about to June in They had a pretty good year, and that was the first walk-off. So maybe that's a good sign for things to come.
John Gibbons joining Baseball Central with Jeff Blair and Joe Siddall. John, people talk about a person's ability to manage the bullpen, to manage pitching, to run a game, all that stuff. I'm going to ask you this as a manager. How do you manage defense? And I don't know if you can, but, you know, obviously late-game situations dictate some of the moves you make defensively. But I've got to think for you in the back of your mind, given the way your outfield defense has played, given the way Brett Laurie has played wherever you've put him, given Edwin at first base, who I don't think gets enough credit for his defensive abilities, does that enter into your thinking at all as you're managing a game? You know, the sense that I've got a good defensive team, I might be able to put a little pressure on right now to try to squeeze across a run?
You know, I mean, Jeff, you know, it's completely turned around for us because, I mean, you saw our defense last year. I mean, it was, I mean, we really struggled there, and it was costly, you know, especially early on in the season. But, you know, I mean, defense is one thing you control in, you know, really in any sport. And a lot of times it's effort and it's a mindset, but it makes a huge, huge difference in the outcome of games. You know, you look at last night's game. You know, you know, they were pelting the ball pretty good around the ballpark, but we were coming up the big plays. I mean, the way they were hitting it. I mean, you know, you figure they were score a bunch of runs, but we just kept making play after play after play, and it kept the game at 2. You know, where in the past that might not have happened, but you know, it's a weapon, and you know, you look at Gose in center field's done a tremendous job and made a big difference for us. I mean, he's robbing guys of hits. You know, Laurie at both spots, third base and second base, you know, is making some big time plays. And I agree with you. You know, Eddie over first base, you know, he a lot of times doesn't get enough credit for the kind of first baseman he is. I mean, he's basically known as a slugger, but you know, he's been stellar over there himself. So. You know, tight ball games, the defense really shows up. You know, when you're slugging the ball and you're scoring a lot of runs, sometimes you can cover bad defense. But, you know, in those tight ball games, you know, you can't hide it.
What's the update in Casey? Would you expect him to be ready today?
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see. I think just he's carried a pretty good workload since he's been here. And of course he was without a spring training, but we'll see. I would expect him to go today. If he needs another day, then we'll give it to him. But hopefully he's ready.
And how close are you guys to deciding when Colby goes out?
Well, I mean, he's, it's getting to that point where we thought, he's probably going to be good and ready. But it's kind of been a slow process for him. So we'll know in the next couple of days what's going to happen with him too. He may end up going down to Florida to do a little rehab in here pretty soon, but nothing definite yet.
You're being presented with a pretty interesting decision at some point, aren't you? With the way Pilar is playing, the way Gose is playing, you've got Rasmus coming back. I know people will say this is a nice decision to have to make if you're a manager. It's a nice call to have to make because you're dealing from a very strong hand here. But I'm interested when you have a guy like Gose, and John, we've talked about this. Everybody's waited for the light to go on with Anthony Gose. What if the light has gone on now? You guys can't. Would you be doing him a disservice the way he's playing right now to send him back to AAA?
Nice question, Jeff. Hey, you know what? I've said this over and over. Anthony, he had a tough go, at least at the beginning of the year last year in Buffalo. But I've always seen him good in the big leagues. He came up last September. Yeah, he's still learning the game. He's still a young guy. He's still figuring out his swing and facing different pitchers. But I've always seen him play good. Last September, and then of course this year, early in the season, he came up for 2 games. Did a nice job. He really did. He contributed in both those games, and then since he's been here, since Rasmus went down, he's done everything right. So I've never known the kid anything but good, and so in my mind, he belongs in the big leagues. We've been on a nice little roll here now, and he's played some good, big part in that. So until Colby's ready to come back, we're not sure what we'll have to do anyway, and so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves anyway.
Gib, how tough is it to make that decision last night of how long to go with Liam Hendriks? Obviously, the Rays were squaring some balls up last night. You went into the 6th with them, and he gets a 1-2-3 inning, albeit a couple balls were hit pretty hard. But that's going to be the toughest thing as a manager, because if you leave him out there too long and give up a couple runs, you know what you're going to hear the next day. You left him too long, right? But how tough is that just to kind of watch what he's doing, and they're kind of beating him up a little bit?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it all started with, not having Jansen available, and then, the bullpen's been carrying a pretty good workload lately. So, ideally, you want to give a couple guys rest down there. And so not knowing you have Jansen, we try to stretch that game out as much as possible. We knew the guy that could probably, could go multiple innings for you, would be McGowan. And, Liam, he was hanging on there. He's giving up, he's giving up a lot of, hard hit balls, but he was getting some key outs. I thought once we got through the 6th, it was a perfect time. We could bring Rasmus in, to get that big out, and of course they ended up getting a dunk shot hit down there, but it set up perfectly. We were trying to go, stretch it out as long as we could, and then get McGowan in there hopefully for 2, and then see where we're at. If we had to lead, we thought we could be okay without Casey, and everything turned out right. Some nights are like that. Everything seems to work out right.